Does anyone remember the good old days of edgy internet atheism? Maybe you are newcomers to this sphere of the internet, but those heydays were around 2011 to 2014. Back then the big thing was skepticism of the existence of a supernatural creator of everything. However, that is old news and I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to take it to the next level. This is not skepticism of a god. This is skepticism of a false idol. This is not atheism. This is a statism. When you hear this man speak, there is a chance that you might think he is insane.
I am the living soil. The dirt, the water, and the air has its own voice, does it not? It all supports forms of life, does it not? I am a part of that life. I am not your corporate fiction.
Sir,
Do not taint me.
you're here today on an omnibus hearing. You've already pled not
I am
guilty.
here by special visitation to see to it that you do not tainter my natural living man's name.
Are you prepared
That's
to
why
tell
I'm
the
here.
court if you wish to go to trial on this matter?
This is a trial. Tell
No,
me it's
this
not.
isn't a trial.
Here's my
This
jury
is an
of my
omnibus
peers.
hearing, sir.
You cannot produce a jury of my peers because all juries are selected from a pool of registered voters, and the instant a person registers to vote, their natural ability as a peer to comprehend natural law has been dissolved and turned into fiction. There cannot be raised a jury of my peers. It cannot be done.
There certainly was a time when I did, which is why it might surprise you when I tell you this man is way more sane than anyone doubting his sanity. Have you ever stopped to think about what the government actually is? Is it a geographical location? A person? A group of people? A building? No, the government is none of those things. The government doesn't exist. But hold on a moment there, Mr. Fintronaut. The government obviously exists. If I don't pay my taxes, I'll be thrown in jail. If I disobey a police officer, I'll be killed. If I don't send my kids to a government institution, people will come to take away my child. I work for the government and the paycheck I get is very much real. Hell, your pseudonym is even a reference to a government. You are correct in that these things will happen. What you're not correct on is that these things happening imply that a government exists. You see, the government is only a figment of our imagination. If one believes that the figment of their imagination is a real thing, it can make them act in a very different manner to how they would act if they realized that this thing is not real.
Here's this, right? All I did was go into the office of my apartment development, right? And they refused to give me the form. I'll talk about that in a minute. This guy walked into the office when I was there, and now here he is parked out here, right? Stop stalking me, right? Don't ever stalk me again.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah,
About what?
don't ever stalk me again.
Who's stalking you about
You. Laugh some more. Do it.
what? You're crazy.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Say to the camera that you're not stalking me.
I am not stalking you. I don't even know who you are.
Is that right?
That's right.
You want to give your name?
I do not need to. You want to give me yours? You want to give me yours? Yeah, I didn't think so. I have no idea who you are, lady. So, you know, you're dreaming. You think I'm stalking you. Good luck with that. Well,
Keep talking, why don't you?
Now, how about if everyone around you, ever since you were a child, has been reinforcing the idea that government exists and that it will punish you if you don't follow its arbitrary rules? Well, now the existence of such an entity feels like a no-brainer. In fact, anyone that would doubt the existence of such an entity seems like a deranged lunatic. Everyone knows that a government exists. But it doesn't. This is all backwards. It's not the odd person doubting the existence of a government that's the insane one. It's indeed the vast majority of everyday people who believe in its existence that are the loonies. You see, the reason there are consequences to disobeying the will of this mystical creature called the government is because people believe in its existence. If tomorrow everyone had forgotten about the concept of a government, the effects of a government would cease to exist. People wouldn't be paying taxes because that is a construct that comes with the belief in the government. The government workers, the clerks, the soldiers, the teachers, the police, anyone working and being paid by taxes would go to their workplace and quickly realize that no one is paying their salaries and seek work in the private sector. Think about it. If the existence of something is dependent upon people believing in its existence, then that thing is not real. Imagine a tree in a forest. If the tree were to stop existing after I stopped believing in it, I think we can all agree it was merely a figment of my imagination. If there actually is a tree in a forest and I stop believing in this tree, the tree still continues to exist independent of whether I believe in its existence. My disbelief in this tree, however, can have physical manifestations in the way I behave. But the fact that I behave as if this tree doesn't exist doesn't mean that this tree doesn't exist.
That sign can't stop me because I can't read.
If on the other hand people stop believing in the existence of a government, government will no longer exist. If people stop believing in the existence of a corporation, which the government actually is, this corporation ceases to exist as it's only a social construct, a legal fiction created by people in their minds. Many anarchists fall into this trap of thinking there are some elites who conspire against humanity from their ivory tower. I'm here to tell you that this well runs much deeper than that. It is indeed normal, everyday people that conspire against each other, and not only the elites. It's easy to think that the elites, celebrities, politicians and so forth, are the rulers as they have a lot of influence over people. But anyone can become a celebrity, anyone can become a politician. The real rulers are the people who go out there and vote. The reason democracy doesn't work is not because there are a bunch of Machiavellian masterminds who subvert democracy. No. The actual reasons are what's known as the subjective theory of value as developed by Karl Menger and methodological individualism. Because value is subjective and because only individuals hold values, you cannot develop a one-size-fits-all type of collectivist solution to complex problems such as economics and expect this solution to be effective. Every time a democratic decision is made, one side wins and one side loses. This guarantees that no one is ever satisfied with the status quo, so they keep imposing their will upon other people, and the other people will keep imposing their will upon them. So democracy doesn't work because it's not rational. It gives individual solutions meant for collectives. But collectives do not need solutions because collectives do not think, collectives do not act, only individuals do. Democracy collectivizes people, it divides people, and it sets people against each other. When each individual could have what they want if only they didn't try to impose their values on other people. And make no mistake, originally there are indeed cartels, which are the physical manifestation of government, that violently overtake a geographical area into their dominance and dictate the rules which the people living in this area should follow if they don't want to be assaulted. But as the influence of cartels spreads onto larger and larger area, eventually it becomes impossible for a mere band of thieves to physically enforce their rule upon the people they are supposedly ruling. But because these people, the ruled, believe to be subject to this rule, and that for disobeying this rule there are consequences, their beliefs become a reality. The cartels can expand onto new territories because their previous territories have become domesticated, and no more need the cartel's physical presence as a threat, because the ruled will enforce their own obedience to the cartel. In effect, they've become one with the cartel. As enough time passes, the original cartel members die off, but the government continues its apparent existence as the people previously being ruled by the cartel have now become their own rulers and the ruled simultaneously. They still agree that the framework of rules set by the cartel is legitimate and continue to enforce it despite the cartel, the government, no longer actually existing anywhere but in people's minds. In some cases, the offspring of the cartel will continue to rule for a while, but eventually even the ruling kin will be subject unto the same rules that everyone else is subject to and lose their monopoly on arbitration. At this point, we can say that government no longer physically exists. Think about how a government worker gets paid. Who pays the salaries of politicians, teachers, soldiers, welfare recipients, police, firefighters, and so forth? Well, they get paid by a government clerk. Who pays the salary of this government clerk? Another government clerk. How does this government clerk get paid? By another government clerk. How does this government clerk? You get the point. The money trail goes on an infinite loop of government clerkdom. In essence, these government clerks circle the money taken out of the paychecks of working people by the means of taxation and allocate what's left after their cut to whatever the lawmakers, who are also paid by government clerks, decide. So are these lawmakers the government? Well, no, because anyone can become a lawmaker, and even lawmakers are subject to the law that they themselves pass. If everyone is the government, no one is. The government is all in your mind, and because it's in your mind, other people, in whose mind the government also is, have the ability to leech off of you, while you have the ability to leech off of other people. Because people who believe in the government agree to abide by the terms which they establish by voting, it gives other people who also agree to abide by these rules the ability to control you and you the ability to control them. In other words, if government can control you, that means if you use the government, you can control others. The problem is everyone has the same mindset, so you're as likely to be controlled as you are to control. The government is a mind game where everyone manipulates each other into self-sacrifice instead of coming to a rational, mutual agreement where both parties win. This notion that the government doesn't exist will be extremely offensive to those who are looking to manipulate you, because if you don't believe that the government exists, that means that you cannot be manipulated. You know what's the most offensive thing to a thief? A lock. You know what's the most offensive thing to a rapist? A gun. And you know what's the most offensive thing to a manipulator? Lack of gullibility. This is the reddest of red pills. The government is a spook. Now you are free from the chains of it. Beware of those who aren't, for they will try to punish you for defying their imaginary entity with the belief that they are doing the right thing, just because this imaginary entity has legitimized their violence and allows them to transfer that violence onto this entity instead of taking responsibility for the violence themselves. But know that if you wish to do something which you can get away with without the zombies roaming the streets knowing, you can, and you are correct for doing so. Do not let people control you, and do not try to control other people, for it will lead to your own control. You roam with the zombies and you might get bitten. This has been Fintronaut, and I do not subscribe to your corporate fiction. Bye-bye.
Excuse me for just a moment.
No way. Get back here and finish this. Hey, get back here and finish this. The judge has left the courtroom. There you go.
You what?
Yeah.
There is nobody in this courtroom.
Yeah.
The judge has walked out.
The judge will walk down.
I
Everybody up
said
and
no
out.
excuse.
Everybody up and out.
I'm not letting you
Up and out.
go.
Up and out. Up and out. Follow the man. Get your hand.